Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today in this video I'm going to check the Foxeer Mix HD FPV camera. I've already compared it side by side with the Cadex Turtle V2 and the Runcam Split Mini 2, and today in this video I'm going to go over its features, measure its latency, and on the second part of the review I've mounted it on the GEPR-C Pika, which is an excellent platform for an HD FPV camera, and headed outdoors and tested it out. Inside the box you can find the camera main unit. It's available both in black and in red, and it's using a 2.1mm lens. The main camera board, and as you can see it offers both 30.5 by 30.5 and 20 by 20mm mounting options. The user manual both in English and Chinese, a simple camera bracket and a micro-size to full-size adapter, an OSD control board for setting up the camera, screws and spacers for securing the camera unit, an SD card cover and the camera connector, and finally both M2 and M3 spacers for securing the camera control board. Just like its competitors, the Foxeer Mix will enable you to record your flights at 1080p 60 frames per second. It supports both NTSC and PAL picture formats, and you can toggle between 16:9 and 4:3 aspect ratios for the FPV feed. Just like the Cadex Turtle, it is using the DJI cable, which is in my opinion a better solution than the Runcam ribbon cable, which can get bent pretty easily. On the main board you can find an onboard microphone and also two buttons for starting and stopping the recording. So one is going to be in use if you're going to opt in for the 30.5 by 30.5 mounting option, and if you're going to remove it, you still have another one on the other side, which is going to be in use if you're going to use the 20 by 20 mounting option. Over here you can find an LED indicator that will indicate if the camera is turned on and also if it's recording. And finally over here you can find pads and a connector for the camera, so it will enable you to either solder the wires directly from your flight controller to the camera or just use the connector. The walk-in voltage of the camera is between 5 to 17 volts, and over here you can also find a VBAT sensor. So if you'd like, you can display the battery voltage on the OSD. In terms of weight, the Foxeer Mix weighs 18.6 grams, so it's the heaviest camera out of these four. So for example, the Cadex Turtle V2 weighs 14 grams, the Runcam Split 2S weighs 18 grams, and the Runcam Split Mini 2 is the lightest out of these four and weighs only 12.6 grams. The reason for the weight difference is that the camera unit is the heaviest out of these four, and just the camera, including the connector on its own, weighs 10.9 grams. Configuring the mix is done through the OSD control board. Pressing the center button is going to take us to the main menu, where we can set the movie size, which is the resolution of the recorded video. So you can set it to 1080p 60 frames per second, 1080p 30 frames per second, 720p 120 frames per second, and 720p 60 frames per second. In order to select an option, press the center button, and if you want to go back without saving, you need to press the back button. Next you can set the exposure. By default it is set to EV0, but I recommend to set it to EV-0.3 because in my opinion the recorded video is just a little bit too bright. Next you can set the white balance between all these options. You can set the metering mode. You can toggle the wide dynamic range between on and off. By default it is set to on. You can set the loop video, which means it's going to create a new file every certain amount of time. By default it is set to off, but you can set it to 1, 3 or 5 minutes. And by the way, even if the camera is going to shut down without you stopping the recorded video, the video is still going to be saved, but you're going to lose a couple of seconds. By default the auto recording is set to on, which means when the camera is powered up, it's going to start recording the video, but if you'd like, you can set it to off, and then you will need to manually start recording the video. Next, you can set the voice recording to on or off. The field of view can be set to wide, medium, or narrow. The screen ratio for the FPV screen can be set either to 16:9 or 4:3, and this is going to affect only the video that you're going to receive on your goggles. Next you can set the on-screen display to on or off, and you can set the values individually. So if you're going to set it to off, now as you can see nothing is shown on the screen, and if it's going to be set to on, now you can see the call sign, voltage and the timer. Next you can turn on the invert mode, which is going to flip the video. So you can see now after turning it on, the video was flipped vertically. Under TV mode, you can set the picture format to either NTSC or PAL. By default, it is set to NTSC. You can set the light frequency to either 50 or 60 Hz. Under the control mode, you can either set it to flight controller and PWM. At the moment, I don't think that it's supported on Betaflight, but hopefully they are going to add the support soon, which will enable you to start and record the video through an auxiliary channel. You can also format the microSD card if it's present. Under system, you can perform a factory reset, which is going to restore the default settings. You can see the system information, and this is the version that I'm currently running. You can see the card info if a card is present inside the microSD card slot. And finally, you can set the language to either English, Chinese, or Japanese. The next thing I've done is to measure the latency of the Foxeer mix, both when it was set to PAL and NTSC. In order to measure it, I connected the camera directly to an FPV screen and then turned off the light in my room. The video was recorded at 240 frames per second, which means that every frame is about 4 milliseconds. First I tested it on NTSC, and it took about 10 frames for the screen to go completely dark, which means the latency is about 40 milliseconds. Then I tested it when it was set to PAL, and it took about 11 frames for the screen to go completely dark, which means that the latency is about 44 milliseconds. On the second part of my review, I headed outdoors and tested the Foxeer mix on the GPRC Pika using the default settings, and by the way, I do plan to post some more flight footage using a different lens, and I also intend to tweak the settings. I hope you enjoyed this video and you find it useful. If you have any questions about the Foxeer mix, feel free to ask it in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you like this video, and consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the notification bell if you're not already subscribed. See you in my next videos, and goodbye.